Hello, lovely people. Welcome to Vab Fashion's YouTube channel. My name is Eunice. Thank you for clicking on this video. If this is your first time on my channel, please kindly hit on the subscribe button to subscribe and also make sure to put on your notification bell so you get notified once I post a new video. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you so much for coming back. In this video, we are going to be learning how to make this beautiful jumpsuit with a double yoke. The first yoke is a sweetheart yoke, while the second is a Queen Anne's yoke with a built-up neckline. In my previous video, I showed us how to draft and cut this jumpsuit. So in this video, I'm going to be showing us how to sew this. So this is a sewing part. This is a sewing video. So just in case you haven't seen the video of how to draft and cut this jumpsuit, I will advise that you watch it so that you can really understand what we're doing in this video, which is the sewing part. So without wasting much of your time, let's get right into the video. Thank you. So I've cut my fabric and using my patterns, and you can see I added half-inch round. This is the center front of my center piece. So you can see that I have half-inch on the sides I'll be using to join it. I have two pieces of this center front. One will serve as the main fabric and the other will serve as the lining. I decided to use my fabric as the lining for the front. This is because the fabric I'm using is a stretchy fabric. So if your fabric is not stretchy, please feel free to use your lining. So I'm using my main fabric to line it, so anyone can serve as the front. Okay, anyone can serve as the main fabric, I beg your pardon. So the side pieces too, you can see that I added half-inch on this side and I added my seam allowance here of 1.5 inches, and I have four pieces also, two for the main fabric and two as the lining. So here I have my back piece also, or my back pieces. For the back, I just have a facing that I'll be using to turn it. So you can see the facing for the neckline area. And this is a pattern. And I also added my sewing allowance. So here I have my Queen Anne's yoke, and I have four pieces. Two will be for one side, two will be for the other side. So the lace is also serving as a lining for itself. I hope we understand what I'm trying to say. Can you see? This is what I have. And you can see that I added my half-inch round, which is going to be my seam allowance. And then here also I have my yoke. I have two pieces of the yoke also. So one will serve as the main fabric and the other will serve as the lining. And you can see that I also added my sewing allowance, my seam allowance of half-inch round. I didn't add on the neckline. This is because I used a neck depth of 3 inches. So by the time I sew on half-inch and join the shoulder, you understand, I want to make sure that I have that 3 inches here. So I didn't add here. I only added to the shoulder and this side. I didn't add to the main neckline. And I already said that I have two pieces. One will serve as the lining and one will serve as the main fabric. So to stitch our pieces together, I'm going to place the yoke right side facing right side, and then I'll stitch the neckline. This is for the yoke. And then for the Queen Anne's yoke, I'm going to stitch this side, right side facing right side also, like this. And then I'm going to stitch this side. I'll stitch here and turn it out from the armhole. I'll repeat the same thing on the second piece. So I'll stitch here also. So that aside, so for my front pieces, I'm going to pick the middle piece, the center and the sides here. I'll place them right side facing right side and stitch on half-inch like this. I'll repeat the same thing on the other side by placing right side facing right side. I'll stitch on this side. So I'll also repeat the same thing on my lining. Then I'll show us the next thing to do. So I've stitched my pieces together, my front pieces together, and I also went ahead to iron the seam lines opened. You see? And then I notched the underbust point. I also repeated the same thing on the other side. This is what I have here in front. And see I'm not padding this bustier. This is how I want it to be. And then I repeated the same thing on the lining part also, and I notched this point. The next thing I'm going to do now is to bring in my yoke. To stitch the yoke to the neckline, the first thing I'm going to do is to notch this point, the sweetheart point. I'm just going to notch it in by a little less than half inch. Remember that half inch is my seam allowance. So I'm going to notch it with less than half inch. Can you say that? So having notched it, I'm going to bring in my yoke like this. You want to make sure that these points are matching up. You can as well just stitch them together here at this point, or you make sure that you pin this part. You don't want any one of them to shift. So I'm going to place it like this, right side of the yoke facing the right side of my fabric, and then I'll push it in by half of an inch. Can you see? Can you see that? See? It's going up by half of an inch at this point. So I'm going to pin here at the center. So I'll go ahead now and I'll flip it this way like this and pin. Then I'll pin it all the way to this end. So can you see? You see? So I've pinned this side. So now I can go ahead and stitch this side. So if you are already an expert and you can manage it, you can pin this other side too at the same time. So you sew, and that you sew this side and repeat this side. But for clarity's sake, for somebody that is just a beginner, you're going to stitch on this part half inch like this way, and stop here at this point where you have this notch, and then also turn this one like this and pin this way, you get, and then stitch like this to this end. So I'll go and do that and come back and show us. So as you can see, I've sewn the yoke. Can you see what I have here? And this is what it looks like in front. And see, my yoke is sitting really well. So what will help you to achieve this nice or neatly sewn yoke? You just have to notch the center. Once you notch the center, you are good to go. So you can see the excess fabric I have here. I'll just trim that out. So now I'll bring in the lining. So to sew my lining now to the neckline, this is what you must do. You have to shift your yoke away. So I will advise that you use your pin to just pin it, just like I'm doing for mine. Now bring in my lining. I'll place it on the right side. This is the right side of the fabric, so I'll place it on the right side like this. And then you want to make sure that every point is matching up, and make sure your seam lines are opened. Okay, so I'm going to pin in a way that I'll pin on this side, because the idea is for you to still stitch on the previous line, or just 1/8 of an inch below the previous line. You don't want to go too far. You don't want to stitch above it, and you don't want to stitch too below it. So basically it's better to just stitch on the previous stitch. Okay, so my lining is the one at the back like this. So I'm going to just pin all the way like this. You see? So take this to my sewing machine and try to stitch on my previous line, okay? And then I'll come back and show us. So I'm done stitching my lining, and this is what I have. So I'm going to go ahead now and notch round the neckline. Just notch so that it can relax well. So having notched like this, I'm going to just trim a little. I don't want it to be, the seam allowance inside to be too bulky. I'm just going to trim a little to give it that nice and relaxed look. Okay, so can you see? So this is what I have here now on the right side. Can you see? Everything came out really beautiful. My yoke is not gathering anywhere. Like I said, that the secret is notching the center. As you can see, this yoke, I have not even ironed it. So by the time I press it, you'll know that it will sit better. And this is what it looks like on the lining side. So of course I use same fabric, so that's why it's still looking as if this is the front, but this is the part I'm using for my front. So I'm going to give it a nice press and show us the next thing to do. So after pressing my neckline, I went ahead to stitch the sides. This is what it looks like at the wrong side, that's at the reverse side, which is the lining side. So now the next thing to do is to bring in the trouser, that's the down part. I've joined it at the crotch line. I've stitched them together at the crotch line, and this is it. So I'm going to place this now like this, right side of the bustier facing the right side of the trouser. So you can see, that everything is matching up. Remember, I added just 1.5 inches because I added 1.5 inches on the waistline, which is what I added at the upper bodice. You can see that everything is matching up. So I'm going to pin them like this. So I'm going to stitch this part together on half inch, which is my seam allowance. After doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to sew the Queen Anne's yoke to the neckline. So remember that this was how we cut our Queen Anne's yoke. And you see, this is the shape we have here. So you want to bring it in so that you are sure of what you are doing. And you see that? So I'm going to, this is how the shape of our Queen Anne's yoke is supposed to be. So you can see that I just have half inch on this side because half inch will be for joining the sleeve. So I'll place it like this on top of the yoke here. Can you see what I'm doing? So I'll place it on top of it like this and pin. You see? So you can see that it's matching up with the armhole. And you see, it will just come into the armhole here at this point. So I'm going to repeat the same thing on this side. I'll place it on the right side here. So I'll take to my sewing machine and also stitch it like this on top of the armhole area and then on the shoulder area on this part also, while I also stitch the waistline. Then I'll come back and show us. So I've stitched the waistline together, you can see, and I also went ahead to weave it, and I've also stitched the Queen Anne's yoke also. So now for the back, I've gone ahead to sew my darts, you can see, and then I joined it on the waistline. It's that simple. I just joined it on the waistline, and then I've sewn my zipper to the center back. This is what I have. Can you see what it looks like? And this is what it looks like on the right side. You can see this is my zipper. So now the next thing I'm going to do for the back, I'm going to open it up like this and then bring in my facing. I'll place the facing on the right side of my fabric like this and then stitch the neckline. This is my neckline here. Stitch the neckline and I'll also stitch it down this way. You can see that I've already fixed my zipper, so I'm going to stitch it down this way. I'll repeat the same thing for the other side. I'll place it right side facing right side like this, stitch the neckline and then stitch it down this way, and then I'll join the shoulders of both the front and the back and fix my sleeve and show us how I'll be shaping this jumpsuit. The shoulders together, and this is what I have here. So you can see our Queen Anne's neckline, that's the built up neckline. You can see them meeting at this point here, and then this is our round neck. Can you see where it stops at this point? So this is why we'll now, this is the part that is giving us the built up effect. And then I also went ahead to top stitch this part of my Queen Anne's yoke on top of the yoke this way, and then it went all the way to the armhole. Can you see what we have? I repeated the same thing on this side. Can you see I top stitched it, and this is where our actual neckline stops here. Everything is coming out really beautiful. Then I went ahead also to fix my basic sleeve. It's just the basic sleeve, it's a short sleeve. This is just an 8 inches sleeve. So now the next thing we are going to do is to shape the sides. So remember I added a side seam allowance of 1.5 inches. So you can see I've marked my 1.5 inches from the bust, that's from the sleeve here, 1.5 to the chest line here, and then to the waistline, and also the waistline of the jumpsuit. So you will realize that at this side, can you see how I started reducing my allowance to ½ inch? Because on the trouser part, that's on the down part, I didn't use that 1.5 inches. Remember that the 1.5 inches is on the waistline. So you can see how I just blended it in this way. And then I have ½ inch all the way to the hemline of the trouser. And then on this part, I repeated the same thing. So now for the center also here, to stitch the center together, I'm going to place them like this, right side facing right side here on this side, and then I'll also stitch on ½ inch. I'll stitch on ½ inch all the way from the hem to this crotch depth here, and then to this side also. Can you see? So I'll start this way and then this way all the way to the end. So I'll be left with the hem of the trouser. Once I'm done stitching it, then I'll go ahead and fold the hem of the trouser. I'll stitch it with my 2 inches hemming allowance I added. And then I'll come back and show us what we have. It's of the jumpsuit. And see, and this is what I have. And then I also went ahead to hem the down of the trouser. So what I did was to just fold the hem once. So that's why I wove it before folding. So you can as well fold ½ inch and then fold your 1.5 inches. But I decided to weave, and then I went ahead to fold my 2 inches at once. And then I also sewn the inseam. Can you see? This is what we have. So we are done with this jumpsuit. So the next thing I'm going to do is to give it a very nice press and then wear it on the mannequin so that we can see the final outcome. Here we are. This is the final outcome of our jumpsuit, and I really love the outcome. It came out so beautiful. The sweetheart yoke is sitting nicely, the Queen Anne's built up neckline, everything just came out so beautiful. The bustier, everything is given. The down part is so beautiful. I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something from this video. If you did enjoy watching this video, please make sure to like this video, share this video with your friends, and most importantly, make sure you subscribe to my channel and also put on your notification bell so you get notified once I post a new video. Thank you for watching. See you in my next video. Bye.